Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this session on e-learning on tablets. What, why, and how. Hopefully, we can clear some of that. My name is Amit Garg. I am director at Upside Learning of Custom Learning Solutions, which obviously these days is more of tablets and mobiles. A quick note about Upside Learning. If you have not known us, we have been in business for about 9 years doing e-learning solutions, have about 150 odd clients in 13 different countries. We primarily offer a LMS, which is a learning management system, an Upside to Go, which is a mobile learning management system with a native front end for iPhones and Blackberries and Androids, and a web based backend. The two can work together or separately if you want. And bespoke learning solutions, both for the uh, mobile devices as well as desktops and laptops. Over the years, we've had good fortune to win a few awards from very reputed bodies. That's all about us, and we'll get on to our topic. What is a tablet might seem like a very simple question. Everybody knows what's a tablet. We've all seen this device, which pretty much has ruled the tablet category ever since it was launched, defined the category, defined everything around it. But then these has been the challengers, all the 7-inch ones from Android, stable, whether it's from Kindle, from Samsung, from Google themselves, the Nexus brand. Incidentally, the space is actually getting very interesting now with these kind of devices coming in, what we call as hybrids or convertibles. It is a laptop come tablet. You can just detach the tablet and start working on it, so you have both a work environment as well as a mobile environment, which is where the tablets become even more interesting as we go along. And then there is this, which has not yet been launched. I think it's coming soon, which is the transformer from Asus, and it runs on two different iOSs. So when it's a desktop, it works on Windows. When you take it off as a tablet, it works on Android. So all our thinking around tablets itself is being challenged, and I think it is continued. It will continue like this. You'll see new forms and new ways of presenting things, and how do we use them. I would put my bet on the one on the left side to become, over a few years' time, the default device in enterprises. The default device in enterprises, replacing our laptops, desktops in a few years' time, and this possibly becoming some sort of a default at home. It's a multi-user, not multi-touch. It's a multi-user tablet, so two kids can play together. You can play with your kids, various things. It's a 14-inch tablet, the one on the right. So tablet per se would actually be different types of tablets. The ones which come into your organization would possibly of more interest, but then you never know which ones are really coming over the years. That's the kind of forecast that we have for different sized tablets over the next few years. We've obviously seen the 8 to 11 inch, which is where the iPad really has been, which is ruling, and hence it's been very high in the initial years. But it's going to go down till 2017. You might possibly see it coming down below 40%. There is some market for the higher size tablets, the 11 plus inches as well, like the one that we saw on the right side. But then the one which is really going to become popular is the 8-inch or less than that, 7, 7.9, which is where the Nexus, the Kindles, the iPad mini are all playing. The iPad, of course, had to come out with a mini because of all the other tablets eating into its share. So that's really the kind of tablet mix that you can expect in future. Tablets, while they have been quite conveniently put into a mobile category, but then with the new set of devices that we see, it's very difficult to just call them mobile. And it's very important to understand where they fit in. How do they compare with maybe a laptop or a desktop and a mobile on various factors? On portability, very portable, maybe just a little less than mobile phones, especially if you consider the bigger size, the 9-inch ones and the 10-inch ones. Functionality, this is where they really beat the smartphones, because you get a bigger screen area with the new kind of tablets, especially the convertibles coming. they are really as good as a laptop or, or a full PC, so you can do full work and also have mobility with it. Flexibility and features or the various affordances that you get on a tablet are exactly similar that you get on a smartphone. Just that sometimes you don't want to use that. So if you had a tablet and a smartphone both, and if you want to take a photograph, you'll probably pull out a smartphone. Outside a tube station, if you have to see map, you'll probably pull out a smartphone if you even had both of those available and both were connected. It's just that you don't use tablets always, even though they have all the affordances or all the facilities, but yes, they do have all of that, except for, of course, the 3G connectivity, which will come in the last. Availability is pretty much similar to smartphones, just that sometimes the tablets may not be your personal, and sometimes you may have to think whether I want to carry it with me. Mobile phones or smartphones, you don't think. It's just there with you, wherever you go, right by your bedside, even in the washrooms for most people. Connectivity, yes, pretty much same as smartphones, except for the ones that we buy as a non-3G or just a Wi-Fi version. So they are actually quite unique, and which is where I think tablets have a very interesting place in the enterprise. They merge the mobile technology with PC technology, which is extremely interesting, especially for enterprise, because you can't really shift everything that you do in your L&D domain onto mobile devices just like that. But it's much easier to put it onto tablet devices. Of course, you need to validate, and we'll come to that, how to go about ensuring the reasons that you are moving ahead for are correct. I'm sure you've seen a graphic like this earlier, which clearly states that we use different mobile devices or different devices based on the context. It's really the context that drives. And context, as per Google, is four things: your location, your attitude, time on hand, and the goals you want to achieve. So it's a combination of all of those things. So the example that I was giving earlier about coming out of tube station, trying to find map, you would probably pull out a smartphone. Similarly, various other things. But then essentially the context will define exactly what you want to do and which device you really reach out for. In the same report, tablets were categorized as they keep us entertained, essentially a media consumption device, which is what they have been so far. But if you reflect back on the kind of tablets that are coming, this would change. It would not be just a media consumption device. But even with the tablets that were around so far, if you see this, which compares, this is from Adobe, which compares what do we use our tablets for and what do we use our smartphones for. Very interesting about shopping, 44% on tablets, 20% on smartphones, and reading books, 59%, and probably missing on this list. So you get time. It's the place where you use it, what you do with it. You can research a little more. And there's a similar report from Nielsen as well, where you do more with tablets. If you see the ones from the bottom, the fourth and fifth, 48% and 43%, both tablets. So you are actually ordering more on tablets, not ordering on smartphones. But if you look at the top one, store location is what you use the smartphone more for. So essentially, it's validating the same hypothesis that you use it based on the context, but at the same time, it gives you a little bit of a clue that you can possibly spend more time on reading books, doing more in-depth research about things when you are ordering things, and similarly, even for learning, tablets would provide that space when you need, not just a reference tool. A smartphone could be just a reference tool, just when you need it, short bits of information, maybe 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Tablets might actually stretch it a little more. Okay, so what is e-learning on tablets? Very simple, play with words. Learning or performance support, delivered or accessed. I think accessed is one of the main words here in terms of distinguishing it what you have from what you may have been doing so far. Just providing access is very powerful, because if you have the device, you are in the flow. When you need it, if you can access information and use it to do something, it's real performance support and not just learning that you're doing. Some examples of what could be the different forms of e-learning on tablets. This is most predictable. Just push any desktop e-learning that you are doing could be done on tablets, of course, if you have valid reasons. But yes, it's the easiest in terms of getting done, least amount of barriers. Form factor is almost the same, screen size is almost the same for learners. Just works well, but yes, you have to have the right reasons for it. You can look at responsive e-learning, which is going on to multiple devices, smaller devices, bigger devices. Again, it has to fit the purpose, especially for compliance training. It might work well, especially for people who are traveling and they can't really access learning on larger devices, but you have to get compliance training done. You could make something which is more richer, which is native app based, where people can dive deeper, can really. This one was really created for the launch of this car in the UK about 2 years ago, where they had given tablets, not given to take away, just for experiencing the app during that launch, where you can click, see videos, compare with other cars, and you need that much space to do that. You can't do that on a smartphone really very effectively. And you can embed in the workflow. This is really the most powerful part, and gradually we'll see more and more of this happening. This is an example taken from Emirates Airlines, who have implemented a program called KIS. If you search on Google, you'll find that. Essentially what it does, if you can see the first screen, it's showing you the reward points that a particular customer has on the flight, and on the flight, in the cabin, the crew can upgrade them, deduct their reward points balance if they have to, etc. So essentially they are doing things. So it's like a business application. So, but why are we saying it's also learning? They also have things like these, where there is survey, there is feedback that the crew can give, which goes to the manager. They can learn about various things that they need to do. So there could be checklist in the whole program that is available. They also have profiles of all of their flight crew members, because they have about 15,000 crew members, and not all of them fly with each other every day. They really don't know who's flying with them. So they can actually check who's flying with them, what do they know, where they come from, etc., etc. Just helps do a much better team bonding even before the flight has really come around. They've met each other. This is an example from NHS. They had something like this called a computer on wheels, which is literally a computer on wheels. And they had some trouble about shuffling this around. And they are trying to move to something like this, which is more of a tablet on wheels. But the critical thing is you can pull the tablet, move around, bring it back. You don't have to lug the whole thing, and which is where they were having a lot of difficulty. So essentially you can see this is again a hybrid form factor. Depends on the situation you want to use, but then tablet is extremely effective for them. And there are several examples for how tablets are being used in the enterprise. If you go to the medical community, they have been really the first community that have adopted a lot of things on tablets. You see a lot of applications on the Apple Store, which are specifically for the medical community. So why e-learning on tablets? This is the reason. Because mobile learning, in our view, is really the future of workplace learning. There is no way you can run away from that. Especially if you come back to the, yeah, it's it's a loud statement. If you go back to the slide that we had initially, the one on the left side, if that's going to become your default device, and the boundaries between e-learning and m-learning are going to merge, there's no way. But then there are other reasons as well. And we have covered that in a very interesting infographic, which is available here. I'll quickly cover that. We live in a mobile world. And various things that tell us that we live in a mobile world. Sometime this year, we'll have a mobile moment in this world where we'll have more mobile phones than people on this earth. It is coming. Sometime, maybe in a month or two. More mobile phones than people on this earth. This is the first technology which has reached this milestone. Not even toothbrush or clean drinking water. Nothing has ever reached this proportion. Nothing. Shift in computing that we are observing now. You will see more and more of handheld devices really becoming the computing devices. Uh, we are also moving towards something which is called mobile first. And let's categorize, the Western world, which is more developed, and the Eastern world, which is not so developed. Eastern world, people are moving or having mobile first as a compulsion because they don't have access to PCs. In the Western world, it is becoming a habit. In Western world, in 2015, it's estimated, and that's there, more than half the people would be accessing internet from mobile devices, even if they have access to a PC, because that's your habit. That's how you are interacting with things. That's where you have stuff. It is maybe on your tablets and mobile phones. And then there is increased adoption of mobility and BYOD in various environments. Coupled with that, the workplace and work itself is changing. There's a very interesting research uh, by Dr. Keller with the first graph, which has been uh, done over the last 2 decades or so, which talks about how much information do you need to retain in your memory to do your job. And it has come down from about 70 odd to 8%. Essentially, you're not holding information anymore. It's available somewhere, some device, something else. You're not holding it. It was 2 decades ago. So if the work itself is changing, you will have ramifications. You will have a growing mobile workforce. A lot of people work from home, freelancing, just traveling, and mobile workforce doesn't just mean people who are freelancing. It's also people who are not actually stuck to their desk. People who at least a day in a week are traveling around. Salespeople, field staff, other people, senior executives, most importantly. And then there is the 21st century workforce that is coming in, which has very different expectations from the workplace. They are not consumers of information primarily. They are also creators, commentators on that, everything. They are involved in it. So they would not expect you to say, oh, here is a training material, go through it. They would actually expect something else. And you would possibly start seeing with the millennials joining your workforce and that impact coming in. Together, these two present a fantastic opportunity. The first part, which is Gottfredson's 5 moments of learning need, so far we've never had this available so easily to attack the last three elements of it, which is when things go wrong, when you forget, when you need help, etc. Now with mobile devices, you are able to attack those. It also supports continuous learning, where you are known to have the graph that is shown there, where after a program, uh, you would typically forget most of the stuff. Mobile devices are again excellent to really possibly, push in small nuggets in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the program, and it enables informal learning. If you do wish to, take a look at this, please do go to that URL. And of course, there's a webinar as well, which we did on this, which is also available, which is a recorded webinar. Okay, so if mobile learning is going to be the future, why are we talking about tablets? Incidentally, tablets have been growing faster than smartphones. This is pegged to the date when iPhone and iPad were launched. And if you see, the iPad growth has been much higher in the first 8-10 quarters as compared to the iPhone. In fact, tablets have been the fastest growing category of mobile devices ever. Compare it, the smartphones and feature phones just pale in front of them. And the others, way behind. Tablets would overtake PC shipments sometime next year. And they are a game changer. Literally a game changer. And this is, the image is essentially to show anybody can use them. By removing the interface of mouse and trying to click, so many people in the workforce are now able to use computers. They've never learned computers because with tablets, you don't need to learn computers. It's all natural. Where you want to touch there. You can squeeze, you can expand. These are all natural gestures. So you don't need to teach anyone anything. And this is another aspect of the game changer, where we will see new forms of tablets and computing devices coming. And this will really challenge the way we have been doing computing in our organizations. As I said earlier, I'll put my money on this one, the left one. This is going to become the default device in our enterprises. In some cases sooner, in some cases maybe a few years down the line. And they are already in the workplace. Interestingly, this survey was done last year in the UK. And if you see the last two columns, the lighter blue, which is for tablets, that's 36% of people who were surveyed who had tablets say they were using their tablets more for work than for personal use, which in a way says that what was there in the Google report might be not so correct. It is not being used just for consumption. And this is our real reason why we think you should be doing e-learning on tablets. It's the best bridge for you to get to mobile learning. We've, in the last year, in 2012, we sponsored a report with ASTD in US with Towards Maturity here in UK. Both the reports suggest that mobile learning adoption has been fairly low. There are too many barriers. And it's just not easy for any one person to move the whole organization around and say, this is crucial, we need to do it. And there's so many barriers internally. E-learning on tablets, on the other hand, has been moving in much, much easily. And it takes care of some of the barriers that you will face when you get to real M-learning. So it might be a good stepping stone for you to move to M-learning. Right, which is the last section. Let me just check how we're doing on time. How to do e-learning on tablets. Essentially, as we said in the beginning, you need to get your objectives right. There's no other way you can really do good e-learning on tablets or any form of e-learning for that matter. There could be some good objectives like this, which we have encountered when we have been interacting with our clients. You want to make e-learning accessible to, let's say, the sales staff, mobile workforce, people who are not in office most of the times, but they need to complete some form of e-learning. It's easiest to get it done on tablets if they have those available. You want to provide information and material for your field staff so that they can look up when they need. You don't want them to come back to office, learn, and go back again. If it is available right there, it might be a very good option. And embedding learning in the workflow like the application that we show, which is really going to be and should be the objective of bringing learning into the workflow of each and every staff. That's the best. It would be most productive if we can do that. So that could be your terminal objective. But yes, if you have done few other things, you may possibly start looking at this. What are the options you have? Easiest, like the example that we showed, which is M-enable what you've got. And we have 3 or 4 options listed here, but we can't really go into detail. Each one of them will need a half-an-hour session. I'm sure there are sessions which are on responsive e-learning, multi-device and responsive, which are essentially of half an hour, 45 minutes themselves. But if you do wish to discuss any of these, we're right here at the back of this. Multi-device and responsive is your other option if you are trying to include many devices, which is the way you can reach to different kinds of people in your organization, but then you just need to keep the context in mind in which each of them would be accessing that same e-learning. So when you're going for responsive, just be a little more responsible. That's what we have been telling our clients, because you can't really push exactly the same thing. And there are ways in which technically it needs to be created so that it's not a burden on the smaller devices. So you don't end up downloading everything on the smaller devices, even if it was meant for the larger devices. You can create things which are uniquely tablet focused. They would be typically either performance support or linked business applications. And even the next one is more of business applications embedded in work, like the KISS application that we showed for Emirates. You will find this to be an exciting opportunity, embedding in workflow, because a lot of organizations are going for mobility adoption. So you will have the IT department, the sales department, the operations, everybody is trying to put their applications onto mobile devices. It's much easier if you want to group with them and try and embed learning within those applications. It just makes it so much more powerful and so much more easier to push around. Before I end this, there's some design thoughts which would be applicable to each of those uh, types of options that are there. Relevance. Very easily, what's in it for me? Does it fit the purpose that I want to really achieve right now? It just becomes more important because you need to keep the context in mind in which they would be accessing that e-learning or m-learning, whatever you want to call that. One element of the context could be just time. If they have 2 minutes available, you can't give them a 20-minute course. So you have to structure your programs accordingly. Consistency, especially important when you're doing it across devices. So making it a multi-device responsive program would really help achieving some sort of consistency over there. Offline usage is an important criteria. Sometimes we completely ignore that because these are mobile devices. You would get into situations on the tube, maybe your work condition is where you can't really get network, etc. So you need to think about, would they be using this offline? If they are going to be using it offline, we need to plan for it. Maybe downloadable stuff, maybe native apps, maybe something else. Tablet affordances, it would make it interesting and more rewarding for you and your workforce if you include most of the tablet affordances also, like the augmented reality. I'm sure you've seen some of the videos where they've shown people working on their own cars by seeing through the tablet, and then it superimposes elements. Just like what you would see for the Barclays bikes. There's an app for that. There's an app for Tube where it tells you which station is on which side, etc. Similarly, you can have apps and things that is helping your workforce doing things. So in mechanical engineering, for pumps, for various other things, if you can just see through the camera, it would tell you which pump is that. Maybe if you link it with your processes, it will also tell you when was it last maintained, when was it serviced, what are the problems. If you want a checklist, it can give you a checklist then and there, how to stop it, how to start it, how to repair it, etc. It's up to you how much you want to do. But using the affordances of devices would really help uptake and efficiency. And tracking, if especially you're doing compliance training, because you would want to track who's done what. If they're going to go outside of the connected areas, then you would need something which can track when they are not connected. So some sort of an app or a wrapper is required that you need to have if you do tracking on devices that are going outside connected areas. Some simpler ones, of course, if you're moving to tablets, touch is very important. You can't really push anything that you created for the desktop onto these devices if it is not touch enabled. It won't really fly. Please do design for fat fingers. Uh, it's not the mouse that you are really targeting this time. I think they have a guideline of about 44 by 44 pixels is probably the best, or the minimum at least. Do take care of the virtual keyboard, because the moment you ask somebody to feed in something, the keyboard would overlap with what you're saying. It's not a detached keyboard, at least for this one. There are no rollover states on tablets, so make it a single click and a double click instead of a single touch or a double touch. So a rollover would be a single touch, and a double touch would be the action of a click. Thumb reach, important if that's the kind of program you have created. This is the iPad mini, I believe, which has ability to break the keypad into two so that you can just type with your thumbs while you're holding both of them. And landscape and portrait, for most e-learning, clients are okay with the landscape mode. But if you do wish to keep the portrait mode open and not lock it, then you need to ensure that it is not looking very sad with a broad black or white band at the bottom. And of course, you don't want your learners to see this. So do optimize images. It is crucial. That's all from my side. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, we're just right here.